Good morning. Welcome to the Senior Management Appointment Committee of today, Friday, the 7th of July. As you're aware, there are no interviews, etc., is a remote meeting. It's being live streamed and it's being recorded for later transmission. As usual, if we want to attract the attention of committee clerk or of chair, then just use the hands up function, and the chat function should only really be used for also conveying issues to do with connectivity or something like that. I'm Liz Burnett. I'm leader of the council, and as such I'm chair of this committee. So without further ado, we can move forward. First item on the agenda is apologies for absence. And if I'm not mistaken, we've got everybody today.
Yeah, no formal apologies received today, Chair.
Super. Thanks. Next, we have the minutes of the meetings held on the 20th of January 2023 and the 24th of January 2023. If I can, I'll take them one at a time. If I can take them as a true reflection of the meeting, and if I can first move the minutes of the 20th of January.
And I'll second those, Liz.
Thank you. And no dissent, so that's agreed. And the 24th of January, if I can move those.
And I'll second those as well.
Super. Agenda item 3 is declarations of interest, and if there are, the nature of such interests. Do we have any interest today?
There were no interests formally received, Chair.
Thank you. And agenda item 4, and on to the main part of today's meeting, is the recruitment and selection arrangements for the head of digital. And that's a report from the Director of Corporate Resources. So therefore, I'm assuming that Tom's going to take this forward at this point, and as if by magic, he appears. Over to you, Tom.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair. Good morning, committee. So yes, this report is seeking approval for the recruitment and selection arrangements for a new post of Head of Service for Digital Services. The report makes reference to a couple of reports that Cabinet considered yesterday. Firstly, one about the Corporate Resources Directorate capacity and ways of working, so suggesting that this post would head up one of the Directorate's 4 service areas, so a new service area for digital services, which will bring together ICT, customer relations and the business improvement teams within one service area managed by this head of service. And the second report that Cabinet considered yesterday was the Council's draft digital strategy, which is now going to be going through a process of consultation over the summer months before being finalised in the early autumn. And the proposal that is set out within the report this morning, Leader, is to create a head of service to bring together those departments in order to drive forward the council's digital ambition and vision for the future. The role itself is to be funded from existing resources. A cost pressure was awarded in the revenue budget for 23-24 to cover the costs of an additional head of service, and is part of, as I say, that wider restructuring approach within the directorate itself. The report before you this morning seeks permission to advertise the post of Head of Digital, which would happen in the coming week and run into August, and then also seeking approval to progress the necessary arrangements for long listing and assessment of candidates in advance of shortlisting for this committee to consider. And it's proposed that that shortlisting would happen in late August, with a candidate assessment centre scheduled in early September ahead of coming together with this committee for consideration of any final candidates on the 8th of September. So that's a bit of an overview, Chair, but obviously happy to take any questions.
I'm not seeing any hands raised. Are there any questions or clarifications required, or are we happy with the sort of job, etc., that as laid out in the report?
Put my hand up. Yeah, I just clarification really. So my understanding is that there's vacancies within your department, Tom, which have been kept, and then the money saved from those are more or less going towards this head of digital, which will encompass your department and wider afield across the whole of the council.
So thank you, Councillor Hanks. The proposals that Cabinet saw yesterday, I can kind of summarise, I guess, in saying that at the moment there's one vacant head of service position within the establishment for corporate resources. There's also a vacant operational manager position within the directorate, and there's also a cost pressure that's been awarded that is not yet being committed to any funding, committed to any positions. So the proposal is that we will use the cost pressure to pay for the head of service, and rather than then recruiting into another head of service and an operational manager role, that we would replace those two positions with two operational manager roles. So in effect, delivering a saving on the base budget, which has contributed to the saving target for the directorate. So the proposal doesn't add any additional cost to the authority that is not currently budgeted. What it will do is provide some capacity to operationally manage the ICT service, the customer relations department and the business improvement team, and bring them together. And I think really importantly, in the council's draft digital strategy, it makes it really clear that those the ambitions that we have for digital innovation are not just technical in their nature. So they're not just about the boxes and the switches and the systems that our IT teams do a fantastic job of looking after, but it's about changing the way that we work, and having a senior strategic lead who's got a background in digital innovation is going to be really key in making sure that we can harness that ability across the organisation and work with all council departments, just as I expect my other senior leaders within corporate resources to do, because we're here to enable the rest of the organisation to do the job that they need to do.
Lovely. Thanks, Tom. Thank you.
Yeah, I think, Tom, I think it was interesting that there was conversation in Cabinet yesterday about the whole sort of digital strategy, which has a direct impact on this role. It is exactly that. It is not just about whether or not people's laptops are up to date. That there are so many things. I mean, I know that you know, things like telecare and the way in which we're able to support our elderly vulnerable are moving forward apace, and being right at the front of that game is amazing. But also, I mean, you in Scotland, you can look out where your local snowplow is. Now, that wouldn't necessarily apply to us that often, but in bus companies these days have apps where you don't have to leave your house quarter of an hour before a bus. You can pop out as it's coming down the road. Now, if we can get to that level of customer service through our forward-thinking approach to IT, then the services we can offer to Vale residents, if we actually move forward on those sorts of areas, are endless. And I think that's actually quite an exciting agenda, but we need somebody at the level of a head of service to pull together all the IT stuff, the customer interface through our contact centre, etc., and also to be working with services to look at where that works for them. So really, really exciting and quite a comprehensive sort of job description, etc. It's going to be interesting to see if we manage to find the right person, but we hope, I think. So without any other hands raised, we've got 2 recommendations before us today. The second one's got a number of parts. And so the first one is it's recommended that Senior Management Appointment Committee approve the recruitment and selection arrangements at this meeting of the committee as described in the body of this report. And secondly, it's recommended that delegated authority to be granted to the Director of Corporate Resources in consultation with the Head of HR and Leader to progress A, advertising the position, B, progressing the necessary arrangements for long listing and necessary assessment of candidates in advance of shortlisting, C, drawing up a final shortlist for interview, the interview of which will be undertaken by a future meeting of this committee, so it will come back to us, and D, to agree costings and resource requirements relating to the processes required to pursue the recruitment and selection process. But actually, we haven't discussed the costings and resource requirements relating to the processes. So those are covered in the financial part. That's the salary. So are there any specific costings and resource requirements relating to the processes, Tom?
Thank you, Lida. There'll be some minimal costs associated with the pre-assessment psychometric tests that we would commission externally, which is sort of standard practice. But otherwise, it'll be minimal expenses to cover for any external stakeholders that we invite to be part of the selection arrangements. I'm very keen, as this post will be advertised externally and promoted very widely, that we also involve partners within the selection process. So we're having some discussions with some other local authorities and other public sector partners who've got particularly strong people who work in this field, and I'm very keen to involve them in the selection arrangements. So obviously we would cover any incidental expenses that they may attract in getting involved.
Brilliant, that's super. So if everyone's happy with those two recommendations?
Yeah, I'll formally second for the record, Leader.
Thank you, Bronwyn. And there's no dissent, so we can take those as agreed. That's super. So I don't have any urgent items, and I don't have any part 2 items, whether urgent or non-urgent. So on that note, I think we can draw the meeting to a close and thank everyone for attendance for quite a brief but hopefully worthwhile meeting. Thanks all, and see you soon.
Okay.